Hey YouTube, let's talk about protein requirements when bulking and cutting, explained by science in under 5 minutes. So if you're new to the fitness industry or you've been around for a while, you've often heard you should eat 1 gram per pound of lean body mass in order to maintain strength and size when bulking and cutting. But then when you talk to the average nutritionalist, they recommend 0.8 grams per kilogram in order to accomplish the same thing. That's a big difference, right? And I had a conversation with a nutritionist recently, and she basically said that 0.8 gram per kilogram. And I said, well, the average bodybuilder eats 1 gram per pound, and her eyes basically bugged out of her head. And she's like, that is too much. So let's talk a little bit about that real quick. I said 5 minutes, let's try to do this in 5 minutes. So that 0.8 gram per pound per kilogram is based off of studies that have been done in the past on non-athletic people that are either sedentary, morbidly obese, or sedentary and morbidly obese. That doesn't really apply to people that have that. So if you're fitter, if you're stronger, she did concede during this conversation that more athletic people do require more protein. There's just not a generalized consensus yet on what that number is. Well, enter this study. So the International Journal of Sports Nutrition and Metabolism something, that one, I don't remember what it's called. I recently read through that yesterday, as well as about 20 other studies on protein intake in athletes. And one of the things that I noticed is that for every one article that you read that says you should eat 0.8 grams per kilogram, there's one that says you should eat 2.2. It's really hard to get to the bottom of it. However, one of the things that this study did is that it looked at trained athletes. It looked at track and field stars that and the reason they took track and field athletes is these guys need to be jacked, tanned, fast, and strong. All right, things that we all aspire to. Some of us fail at. But the point is, so enter this graph here, where you see a line that says EAR, the estimated average requirement of somebody in the general population. RDA, which is your recommended daily allowance, which is the high end of protein you should be taking into your system. And then notice at the top there, it says athlete, right? So there's kind of like a curve there that talks about muscle protein breakdown and the efficacy of high protein in your diet when you're either maintaining or you're cutting or weight loss. So really quickly, let's talk about this. I want to do this in under 5 minutes if I can. So what they said in this study when taking jacked and tanned athletes is that when you're trying to maintain your physical body weight, either you're trying to gain weight or you're trying to maintain your weight, they recommended 1.3 to 1.6 grams per kilogram, which is almost double what the average person needs. And that's just to keep your body weight or get a little bit bigger. Now, why didn't they say 2.2 grams? Because in the study, they talked about when you are an athlete, you need to fuel your body with carbohydrates and fats. So eating too much protein in lieu of carbohydrates is actually bad. It's detrimental to your gains. You'll make more progress faster eating more carbohydrates. Granted, these are athletes. We're not getting into the keto conversation or I like more protein. But for athletes, more protein, more carbs, more fats fuels your workouts. So they actually would prefer that because you don't get very much benefit or any benefit at all beyond that 1.6 grams per kilogram every day for maintaining or gaining weight, there's no point in going above that, right? They'd rather you eat those carbs or eat that fat to fuel your workouts. But what they said in the study as well is when these guys were trying to cut for competition, they needed between 2.2 and 2.4 grams per kilogram in order to maintain what they called good weight loss, right? High quality weight loss was the term. And what that means is keeping your muscle mass and losing the body fat. Why? Because these guys need to be fast, strong, jacked, tanned, all those things that I talked about before. And what they found is going beyond 2.4 grams per kilogram had no good effect on weight loss. So there was no real point in eating 3 grams, 4 grams, 5 grams. Although interestingly enough, in the study, it did talk about, depending on the source of your protein, you might actually have to eat more, but that's a totally different video paper and all that good jazz. So the Coles notes of this is, if you were trying to maintain or gain weight, you're gonna get those gains going, 1.3 to 1.6 grams per kilogram every day of your body weight. Brilliant, that's all you need. Or at least optimal for what you need. You can eat more if you want to, but what they're saying is it doesn't really make a huge bit of difference for muscle protein synthesis. But when you're losing weight, that number skyrockets to 2.2 to 2.4, which bodybuilders have been saying forever to get strong, jacked, and tan and cut. So when you're cutting, 2.2 to 2.4. When you're bulking or maintaining, 1.3 to 1.6. I'd probably say go 1.6, maintain it. Want to keep these things in place while you're trying to get big. Other than that, guys, remember, a lot of the studies that are done out there that say you need a lower protein requirement are not on people that are looking to get big, strong, fast. They're on sedentary individuals. And that's really what this study came down to, is explaining it in a sense of, let's look at athletes, because that's way more important to athletes than a study done on somebody who doesn't move. Questions and comments down below, please. And if you don't already subscribe, please subscribe and send me a like. It lets me know whether or not you guys like these videos. If you don't like these videos, I won't make more. If you have any requests for videos, post it down below. And as always, guys, eat like a bodybuilder and train like a powerlifter.